everyone, it's Sue with Capstone Leadership Solutions. Today's event is all about positivity, and that can seem kind of hard in these times, right? To stay positive in a pandemic. And I was thinking that when we wrote our book, The Employee Experience, in the introduction, it describes me as someone that is sometimes illogically optimistic. And so I hope I don't come across that way today as illogical in these thoughts about positivity and optimism during such a scary and dark time in not only our country but the world. But I want to connect us with some, real tools. One in particular, a real tool or tactic that doesn't take a lot of time, but could be very helpful to us as individuals and even groups during this time when positivity can seem kind of maybe even out of place. But I want to connect to a couple things that kind of tee this up as a reason why we need to connect to positivity is that as human beings, we are hardwired to see the negative. I mean, it's just how we're wired as human beings is to see what's negative. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's, we love her quote that says, negativity screams at us and positivity only whispers. And that's on a normal day, right? In a normal situation, that's how humans are wired to see the world. And we like to say, Jane and I use this a lot, is that, we're human on one respect, and so we're hardwired this way. But as healthcare people, we're even conditioned more to look for what's wrong or broken, right? Think of, clinicians. We're looking for abnormal vital signs, abnormal lab values, abnormal findings on imaging. As leaders in healthcare, we're looking for what's broken so it can be fixed, right? So, as healthcare, clinicians and leaders, we have two strikes against us. We're human and we're wired to, find the negativity. It screams at us and positivity only whispers. And then, through our training and our work in healthcare, we're trained to seek out the negative, what's wrong, what's broken. And so you can imagine that this can have an effect on us as individuals and as groups and an entire industry is, negativity can scream at us and positivity only whispers. And what's the ill effect of that, right? And there's a lot of research on this. We love the work of Dr. Brian Sexton out of the Duke Patient Safety Center. We've been following his work for years, way back to the early formation of the Keystone Center through Michigan Hospital Association and his work to prevent, burnout and as a mechanism for improving outcomes in intensive care units, right? And so there's this connection with us as humans and burnout in healthcare in particular and with clinicians is that it can have a negative correlation with patient outcomes, mortality, those kind of things. But it also has an impact on, the people, our relationships with each other as coworkers, with our spouses or family members even, and it can have a detrimental effect on our health and mental well-being too. So burnout, stress, negativity can have all these negative impacts on us as individuals, and then in our relationships with others at work or at home, and then even in clinical areas, it can have a negative impact on patient safety and quality and outcomes and things of that nature. So, countering that negativity is something we need to be intentional about, and we need to have tools to do that. And again, we don't have a lot of time, right? So we're thinking, how can we do this very effectively and very efficiently, right? Because time is of the essence. And so how can we incorporate some practices that counter such negative implications to us as individuals or collectively as groups, and also the outcome of our patients? And so the practice that I want to discuss today is a positive psychology tool that you may already be familiar with. But I want to, overview it here today for those that have not heard of it before, and also encourage you that even if you're aware of it, that this is the time that you need to grab onto this tool and use it for good effect, and encourage others to do the same. So the tactic is called 3 Good Things. And it has, it can sound like soft stuff, right? It can sound like it's too simple, doesn't take much time, and can it really work to counter such big problems and issues with us as humans or as groups? But there's a lot of research that's been done on this tactic. There was an article, I was just pulling up some of them, article in Health Psychology, from a randomized controlled study that indeed this tactic improved psychological well-being. Another study showed that participants were happier and less depressed after 1 month, 3 months, and even 6 months later after practicing this technique for just 2 weeks. And then, of course, I already mentioned Dr. Brian Sexton. And a lot of his work has been published out there. In fact, he's still researching this here today. And I'll actually put a link in the Facebook group under this video, where if you want to participate in actually doing 3 good things through the research arm, I'll put that in there. You don't have to do it that way. There's lots of ways you can practice this without being engaged in the research aspect of it. But for those of you that may want to do that, I'll put that link in the comments as well. But, some of his research has shown that just after practicing this simple technique for 2 weeks, there was a 22% decrease in burnout, which was sustained up to a year later, and a 40% decrease in depression. And so this is a non-pharmaceutical intervention, a quick, easy, no-cost intervention that has profound effects on individuals. So what is this technique? Well, it is really a real simple technique. The name kind of gives it away, 3 good things. But the general tips for practicing this positive psychology tool is to, at the end of the day, typically it's recommended, but you could do it any time of day. Again, if you can only do it at one time during the day and it's not at the end of the day, do it when you can. But optimal effect is in the last 2 hours of wakefulness, is if you recount 3 good things that happened in your day. And the best way to do this as well is to write it down. But again, if you can't write it down, just saying it or thinking it is still better than not doing it. So optimal, the last 2 hours of wakefulness, and optimal is to write it down. But again, if you can't do that, that would, do it when you can and do it how you can. And it's still helpful. And then do it for 14 days. Now, I did sign on to the research arm through Duke to sign up for another round of this, participating in the research, and I've done it several times before over the years, is that they're doing it for 15 days now. And I'm not sure why. But 2 weeks is recommended. And so, it takes just a few minutes, okay? And it doesn't take a lot of tools. So it doesn't take time, and it doesn't take a lot of, fancy tools. And if you do this for just a few minutes a day, take the time to do it for 14 days, you're going to see those positive effects, and the positive effects starts being noticeable to you as an individual within 4 to 5 days. So there's 3 ways that, I was kind of thinking about 3 ways to go after this. One is you could do it as an individual, okay? Another is you could pair up with somebody to do it. And then another way you could practice 3 good things would be in a group. And I know of, people that have done all aspects of this, either individual, paired up, or in groups. If you're an individual, there is an app. There's several apps out there. If you went into your app store and just typed in 3 good things, you would see an app that's downloadable, so you could do it that way. You could participate in that Duke study, as I mentioned, and they'll send you an email or text each day to go online and document your 3 good things. And then there's other research questions and even post follow-up where they'll check in on you for up to a year about your outcome from this study. Or you could just journal, have a piece of paper and write it down at the end of each day, write down 3 good things. And if you also put in a little bit about causation, like maybe one of your great things is, you had a great dinner tonight. And if you put in the causation is, my husband made it for me, and he took extra time to make something I liked. So if you could go into that level of detail, that is great too. So as an individual, you could use the app, you could go through the Duke study arm, or you could just write it down in a journal or on a piece of paper. Easy peasy. You could pair up with someone, an accountability buddy maybe, or somebody that you want to encourage to go through this practice. So maybe it's your spouse. I know that when Tim and I do this together, and we don't do it maybe consistently for 2 weeks, but we'll just say, what were your 3 good things today or whatever. And I learn a lot about his day and his work and what's meaningful to him and positive in his life when we take that moment to share. And so maybe doing that, committing with your partner or spouse for a couple weeks to do that would be one way to do it. Another might be a coworker. Maybe there's somebody at work that you really want to support and encourage to do this, and you ask them to participate with you. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a child. So pairing up with somebody is another way you could practice 3 good things. And that sharing is also helpful too, because, saying or writing down 3 good things is very positive. But also when you hear and learn of others' good things, that also adds to your positivity as well. So I encourage, yes, doing it alone is great, but pairing up with somebody is a great way to practice 3 good things. And also we've seen this used in groups, and this might be a really great time to do this, is doing it in a larger group, such as, during an end of shift huddle is what were the 3 good things about my day, even when, obviously negativity is going to scream at us. But what's the positivity that's whispering? What are the 3 good things that we can say happened during this shift or this day? It might be a great way, to transition from work to home and that recovery from the day and transition to home. In my husband's medical practice, they did this a few years ago. I wrote a blog about it back then titled The Heavy Dose of Positivity. And they actually had at the end of their workday in the clinic having everyone write it down. And basically everybody participated and they wrote down 3 good things that happened in their day. And then at the end of each week, they would take some of those and highlight those and share them across the clinic. And what they started to see was an overwhelming, change in the milieu of the clinic of positivity, helpfulness with each other, staff from, one part of the clinic going over to help another part of the clinic, kind of random acts of kindness, things like that started popping up. So a lot of real positive things started to be the ripple effect for the clinic as a whole and all the people that work there, but individually each person had their own experience of what was beneficial to them as well. So some sort of organized, if you can't huddle and do 3 good things, maybe some sort of Dropbox, and right now maybe that isn't realistic, but something like that. But also another way to do it as a group might be through, a texting group. I actually do this and have done this several times with 2 of my daughters. So with Elena and Alexis, we've done this multiple times where we'll pick 2 weeks and we have a special little group in our texting, and each night before we, go to bed, we text each other our 3 good things for the day. And so my daughters, who are living away, they get to share with me what's good about their day, and I get to share with them what's good about my day. It keeps us connected and understanding what's going on in our world that's positive, but also these positive benefits that I spoke about related to decreased burnout, decreased stress, decreased depression, increased psychological well-being, etc. So we get the benefits of staying connected with our loved ones in this way around something positive. And so that's another way you could do it, is get in a text group with family members or friends and practice for the next 2 weeks 3 good things, typing out to them what was great about your day, and listening to them about what was great about their day. So again, it is very simple, you guys. It is very simple. The last 2 hours of wakefulness, write down 3 good things, add the causation factors if you want to go into that, and do that for 14 days straight. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's not like learning to meditate, and some of those other tactics are great too, but this is simple, easy, and anyone can do it. You can do it alone, you can do it in pairs, you can do it in groups. Just start. Just do it, you guys. It's really that simple. It's really that easy, and it has profound effects. So while I may be illogically optimistic and positive, I'm also, a data geek, and the data is there to support this, you guys. And in particular, the data around people that work in healthcare. A lot of the research has been done on burnout in healthcare and how this tactic helps. So I hope I've given you some inspiration and some ideas, and that you're equipped and inspired to just start. So, and encourage others to do the same. Thanks, everyone. Stay well and safe. Bye-bye now.